Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar talking about managing the impact of Google's change in strategy. My name is Chris Fong, and I have here on screen as well as Kushaga Shrivastava. We co-run the Xoogler community along with Kazuki, Yeet, Ankit, Anshu, and a bunch of other Xooglers. Everyone's a volunteer, and there's over 100 volunteers who run this community. We're up to 14,000 members last Thursday, and due to what has unfortunately happened, we're now up to 21,000 members. So if you do want to contribute by being a volunteer and help your fellow ex-colleagues and colleagues, feel free to reach out. But what we decided to do once we heard the news was actually pivot the community around helping all of you. And we have an amazing speaker that we'll turn to in 5 minutes time. I'll get Kushagra to introduce her. But before that, I want to make sure you knew who we were. So we're going to run through a couple of different slides. And from there, I think it's important to know who you're hearing from. So to give you some background, this is the community that we initially focused when we started in 2015 on startup founders. As it's grown over the years, we have people who started to also want the community to do more social events, have events focused on different sub-communities. And so as you can see in this photograph here, we have an event just for APMs. And we have a lot of these sub-communities where there's people who worked at Waymo and other sub-communities under Alphabet that have sprung up. And we're here to support all of you to make sure you get to organize each other and help each other. So overall, we're going to talk about the background. We're going to Kushaga to introduce our guest speaker and talk about next steps of how we can help you. So how did this start? I think it's important to know that we started in May 2015. What we wanted to do was had the experience of how people inside Google was able to help startups. I was at Google from 2006 to 2015. I was an SPD lead on the Project Sandhill team. It was a central business development team that worked with all the different internal teams to present the opportunities for startup entrepreneurs that were funded by the top VC firms. And so I was able to meet everyone inside all the teams from YouTube to Nest to Google Ads and essentially package everything to help founders outside. And we'll get introduced to folks from Sequoia and Andreessen and other VC firms to the portfolio to help them across every piece of the business. When I left to do my own start in 2015, I realized such a great community of current Googlers, but also ex-Googlers could be helpful to myself and other founders. I want to do a shout out to Hunter and Satya from Homebrew as well. They actually let me sit in their office in Soma. And so without ex-Googlers like them hosting me and being helpful to me, we wouldn't have seen the amazing impact we all can do now to help other ex-Googlers. So what we were able to do, we hosted this event in Galvanize and SF, but as you can see the photograph, the first photograph there, and a second photograph, which we did a demo day in Mountain View. So Google actually hosted this. We have another Google hosted demo day in the London office on March 16th. But then we also have folks like Marissa coming to speak to community. So we have this startup entrepreneurship pass, but now we're opening to help everyone who may not be interested in startups, but want to get support from their ex-colleagues. What I want to show you, we also do co-working spaces and co-working days. We can also organize these in future for all of you. So I'm going to go through this slide, but we did this in San Francisco. We did this demo day where we actually had it in Google's office. And these are some of our leaders. So we have over 100 volunteer leaders all around the world. We're actually doing a meetup session for EMEA leads to try to figure out how we can help the EMEA Xoogler community later today. But in terms of the Bay Area, but the US, some of the key people is Minha Pham, who actually organized a meetup for people who were laid off, who were women before what happened on Friday. And she lives in East Bay, so she also organizes a lot of East Bay meetups. Ankit's been hosting and organizing a lot of the global community leaders since 2016, 2017. Anshu, if any of you would like a buddy, so someone who perhaps have been impacted by the layoffs, but want to speak to someone who's left Google a few years earlier, she's actually matching people one-to-one. So we know this is a traumatic time and you may want to speak to people on an individual basis and privately. So if you do want to be matched up like that, please, you can email me, chris@xoogler.co. I'll pull in Anshu, or I'll also put in the chat the form you can fill out where she will match you with someone. And for people who want to be a buddy host, you're also welcome to also sign up to be hosted with someone. So Steph Lau, she's been an amazing Xoogler, started organizing events in the Bay Area. Then she moved to New York, and she's been organizing a lot of events in the New York region and also co-founded the Xoogler Women's Group. So if you want to actually be in touch with her, feel free to reach out to her directly on LinkedIn, or I can share emails as well later. To the bottom, Kazuki-san and Yeet-san, they're both on this call, and they can also chat with you. They organize monthly TGIF meetup every Thursday when it's on, either in Mountain View in San Francisco, but also every second month they do it online. So we know not everyone's in the Bay Area, so they do it online. They also run weekly mentoring sessions you can sign up for if you're a startup founder. And given Kazuki's background, having worked at Google Japan, he does a lot of events in Japan. Also, he organizes events in Turkey. We also have global leaders like Anne as well as Sal running communities APAC as well as EMEA. You probably joined us via the Xoogler newsletter, but if you haven't, please sign up. You can check it out on Substack and put it in details. It includes all the events we run. There's over 300 events a year. We never charge for any of the events, run by these volunteers globally. So feel free to check them out and join further events. And I'll turn over to Kushaga to not only talk about Xoogler Jobs that he put together with a small team in 48 hours, but also introduce our guest speaker. Kushaga, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Before I get into it, I do want to give a huge shout out to Chris. What you did in the first 24 hours was just astounding. For those of you who don't know, like, he didn't sleep for the first 24 hours. He was organizing and rallying global troops together so that we can all come together to help each other. And that was very inspiring. Thank you for everything that you do in bringing this group together, Chris. We appreciate you. Let's move on to talking about the next thing that we did. Once we found out that 12,000 of our friends have been impacted and a lot of chat requests that came in through our Slack channels, personal emails, we were overwhelmed by that. The community grew by 7,000 people in the first 48 hours itself. And most of the requests that came our way were like, can you help matchmake me to another job? Or I'm hiring, I want to hire our fellow Xooglers. Is there a way for us to do that? Initially, we created a spreadsheet and realized that that's not a good outcome. So we got down to work using a low-code tool. We put together Xoogler Jobs. It's live at xoogler.xyz and very soon at jobs.xoogler.co, where it will get live. It's a lot of Xoogler startups, Xoogler executives at large companies who are testing it right now, along with 80 plus volunteers who offered to test it. And we'll do a general launch later this week. If you like to give feedback or test it with me, please write to kush@xoogler.co, and I'll be happy to give you access. But right now you can access it directly by going to xoogler.xyz. So just an example of another thing that we are hopefully trying to do that can be helpful for the community. And xoogler.co is going to get live towards the end of the day. There are some technical errors that are there. And please be careful. It is still in an alpha state, but towards in the next 24 hours, I'm pretty confident that we should be able to launch it with the proper terms of service, legal policy, and whatnot. So let's move on to the meat of this session. First of all, I wanted to, if you can go to the next slide, Chris. I wanted to thank Nidhi for immediately agreeing to talk to us. I've known Nidhi for many years. She's a wonderful friend, and I personally rely on her for emotional support and counseling a lot. And I'm glad that we will be able to hear from her today. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but one of her favorite quotes that Nidhi said is, "My passion lies in instilling a growth mindset and making a positive impact on the lives of others." It's very, very powerful. So appreciate you showing up, Nidhi, and I'll pass the mic over to you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kushagra, and thank you, Chris, and everybody in the Xoogler community for including me on this, because I'm here because as you saw in my profile, I do love to support people, and I know that everyone here is going through a very traumatic experience. And so my presentation today is really about how to navigate through this layoff, and half of the focus is going to be about your mental well-being and your emotional well-being, which is essential to being able to figure out your next steps. And then I will move on to discussing next steps. So give me just one moment as I pull up my slide, as I share my screen here. Okay. All right, are we able to see it?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just keep me posted. I want to make sure that you're able to see it here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so hi, everyone. My name is Nidhi Kaul, and I'm a licensed therapist and coach living in the Bay Area in California. I've been practicing individual and group therapy in an outpatient setting for the past 10 years. working with adult clients, seeking professional as well as personal support. And today I'm here to share some tools with you that can help reduce the stress you may be experiencing from this recent layoff, and to offer my support as you go through this transition in your professional life. You may have some questions along the way, and I do ask that you please hold off until the end of my presentation. We'll definitely take some time in the end for a Q&A. All right. Okay, so firstly, I want to start off by addressing the simple truths about layoffs. These are truths we all know and yet struggle to believe in when we are in a heightened state of distress. Most layoffs are not about performance. There are many companies right now that are restructuring and going through the same layoff process. And there are many people just like yourselves that are being let go. The people that are making the decisions do not know the depth of your knowledge or the scope of your abilities. They're merely making top-level decisions that are unfortunately having a significant impact on your life. All to say, though, that this is not personal. This is not about you. This was not your fault. You did nothing wrong. You are a subject of unfortunate circumstances that are outside of your control. Sometimes we want to accept blame or find the reason why a negative experience occurs in our life, and we do this so that we can get a sense of control. If I know that I was laid off because my performance review last time wasn't that great, then I can avoid this in the future by working even harder. It gives me a sense of control over my future. But that's not the case here. You did nothing wrong. You are not alone in this. There are thousands of folks just like yourself going through a similar experience. And as you can see, you have an entire community of ex-Googlers here willing to support you and to help you in your next endeavors. You will get through this. There may be times that you think that you cannot tolerate the anxiety or the despair, and you can. Remind yourself of times when you've overcome other challenges in your life or other moments of feeling highly distressed. Just as you overcame those feelings and hardships, you will get through this too. All right, this is tough and temporary. It's easy to feel frustrated and overwhelmed by uncertainty and to feel like it's going to last forever. Acknowledge that your feelings are valid, that this is a tough situation, and that your feelings and the situation will change. Both are temporary. And you're highly qualified. After being laid off, it's natural to question your qualifications or your skill set. Remind yourself that you were selected to be a part of an elite team of people, Xooglers. They have a rigorous screening process, and you were chosen to be a part of that team. Don't allow feelings of self-doubt to replace your truth. And of course, you will be employed again. All right. Now, the impact of a job loss is very real, and I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about how it can impact your body and your mind and how you can cope with the stress. It's incredibly important that you learn how to manage stress effectively, as this will allow you to make good decisions for your future, to communicate effectively, and to improve your concentration and judgment, as well as your problem-solving abilities, all things you need for your future endeavors. The tools that I will share with you today will empower you to take control of your life emotionally, professionally, and personally. I'll start by focusing on how you can cope with the emotional, physical, cognitive, and behavioral impact that a job loss can have. There are, of course, other ways that it can impact you, such as your financial health, your immigration status, and your health benefits. And for these, I do recommend that you seek other professional support. All right, so let's talk about how you may be feeling and how to address these feelings. There's a wide range of emotions that one can experience in a layoff. Here are some that may sound familiar to you. You could be experiencing disbelief, shock, confusion, not being able to make sense of what just happened. You may be experiencing some fear, uncertainty, powerlessness. You might be feeling anger towards the community, towards current Googlers, or just the circumstances in general. There could be some feelings of shame or worthlessness. And you could also be experiencing a strong sense of grief, loss, and sadness. For many of you, being a Googler was a part of your identity and came with a sense of safety, with ideas about the future it would afford you and your family. Know that this feeling of loss will reduce over time, as you discover your purpose in life and move forward from this experience. All these feelings are completely valid. You need to remember that it's natural for you to be experiencing a wide range of emotions, from sadness to even relief. Observe the emotion, name the emotion, and allow it to pass and to be replaced by another one. Emotions are temporary. Think of them as waves in an ocean with a beginning, a middle, and an end, coming and going, changing with each moment. All right, now let's talk about how to reduce your vulnerability to the negative emotions and how to manage them. Start by seeking emotional support from friends and family. Don't allow feelings of shame or fear to keep you from accessing your greatest resource, your support network. Ask for what you need. Be direct. Do you need validation to feel heard or understood? Or do you need affirmation, encouragement, and positive reinforcement? Are you in need of practical help? Do you need money? Do you need a friend's referral? Ask for the support you need and be direct. You are more likely to feel connected and supported by friends and family if you specify your needs. It may also help to speak with other people who have been laid off. Those that are going through it now will be able to relate to your feelings and offer validation and support. And there may be those that have been laid off before and can share how they moved forward from it. Engage in pleasurable activities of interest. If you're experiencing pressure to find a job as soon as possible, make sure to create time to engage in activities that provide joy and relaxation in your life. Constantly networking or applying for jobs can be tiring and demotivating. You need a balance between getting things done, being productive, and finding time to relax and rejuvenate so that you can focus again when you need to. And when the emotions are really intense, when you feel high levels of anxiety, sadness, or anger, use distraction as a way to cope. Engage in an activity or an experience that will elicit a different emotional response. So if you're feeling down or really sad, watch a funny video, maybe cats or maybe babies or something that brings you joy. Or look at old photos that elicit happy memories for you. Listen to songs that are relaxing if you're feeling anxious. Or listen to really upbeat songs if you're feeling sad or down. Immerse yourself in the experience. Pay full attention to it using mindfulness. To regulate your emotions, you can also practice meditating for short periods of time. There are apps like Calm and Headspace, as well as others that you can use to guide you through the process. In addition, for many people, writing in a journal helps them to process their emotions and thoughts and allows them to let go of their frustrations. Just writing it out creates this powerful experience of purging all of your thoughts and feelings, closing the book, putting it away. It can be a huge release to be able to do this. So try this out. All right. So when we feel stressed, certain systems in our body shut down while others are activated. For example, the prefrontal cortex of our brain, which is responsible for executive functioning, shuts down. This can result in poor judgment, difficulty concentrating, and difficulty retaining information. In addition, when we're in a state of heightened distress, our interpretation of the situation can become skewed, resulting in a flood of extremely negative thoughts that are not based on facts or reality. For example, if you're feeling anxious, you might have thoughts of, what did I do wrong? Or I'll never get another job. If you're feeling really sad or down, you may think, I'm not good enough, or people must think less of me now. These are what we call thought distortions. We tend to label ourselves, overgeneralize, or catastrophize situations, and to take emotions as facts rather than just feelings. They are not based on reality. They are based on what we are feeling in the moment. If we examine the evidence or facts of our thoughts, we will realize that just because we are feeling that we are not good enough doesn't mean we're actually not good enough. We are skilled in many ways, both professionally and personally. It's crucial to catch yourself if you find yourself having this extreme type of thinking, as it can influence your behavior. So an example of this is feeling really anxious before public speaking. You might be thinking, oh, I'm not going to do a good job. I'm so nervous. People will be able to tell. And after you actually deliver your presentation, you may discover that no one even noticed that you were nervous. You get feedback that you did a phenomenal job. And so this is an example of where you may have had thoughts in your mind of self-doubt and worry and concern, and you discovered after actually doing the presentation that none of it was accurate. You did a fantastic job. You were able to get the results that you wanted. All right, so here's how you can try to reduce the impact stress has on your cognition. As I mentioned before, work on identifying and reframing unhealthy thoughts. Again, this means trying to assess the validity of the thought. Is your thought process extreme and not considering evidence or facts that suggest that it's not true? You may also consider what you would tell a friend if they were in a similar situation or experiencing the same thoughts. We tend to be much more compassionate with our friends and family than we are with ourselves. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by negativity, remind yourself of past times in which you overcame hardships. Think about what helped you in the past. What actions did you take then that kept you motivated or feeling positive? Remind yourself that this is temporary. Maintaining positivity, especially in the face of a crisis, is essential. What's crucial about this is acknowledging that what you are going through is stressful and balancing this with thoughts of gratitude for what you do have in your life, whether it be a supportive family member or health, or friends, or anything else in your life that you are grateful for. One without the other can be unproductive in navigating the stress successfully. Focusing solely on gratitude without validation of your experience can result in toxic positivity, which is not helpful. To keep your memory and concentration sharp, practice some mindfulness exercises. You can Google a bunch. There's a ton out there, and I'm sure there's some apps out there that can share these with you as well. But one that you can practice is called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. In this exercise, you use your 5 senses to bring your attention back to the here and now. This can be helpful when you're stuck in your thoughts and you're unable to focus. Describe in your mind or aloud, if that helps you to focus, 5 things that you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So if I were to practice this exercise right now, I might say that I can see sunlight on my wooden floor. I can feel the pressure of the chair against my body. I can hear the sound very faintly of the white noise machine in my son's room, and so on and so forth. So this exercise helps you to get out of your mind and helps you to focus on the here and now, to be in the present moment. You can't be thinking about anything else as you are describing what your experience is in the here and now. So you want to use that tool when you're being flooded with thoughts, flooded with feelings. This is a great tool to, again, to ground you, to bring you back into the facts of the situation of what you're experiencing right now. You can also use the skill of visualization. Visualizing your desired future, whether it's becoming a startup CEO, traveling, changing careers, getting your green card, whatever it might be, can help you gain clarity on the steps needed to achieve your goals and to reduce feelings of being stuck. All right. Now we're going to focus on the physical aspect of a layoff. Our mind and our body are very deeply connected. When our body is relaxed, so is our mind. And when our mind is relaxed, so is our body. Thus, we need to focus not only on regulating our thoughts and feelings, but also on reducing the stress experienced in our bodies. Pay attention to any physical sensations you might be experiencing, such as heart racing, your chest pounding, chest pain, muscle tension, headaches, stomach aches, nausea, changes in your sleep or your appetite, unexplained fatigue. And you may already be familiar with what your symptoms are when you're experiencing stress. Just pay attention and notice, are there any changes in your physical response, given that you have now an added stressor in your life? And then use some of these tools to relax your body, which again, the purpose would be that once your body is relaxed, so will your mind be. And in order to be able to make effective decisions in the future, we need to be able to relax our mind. So you can try some deep breathing, and the practice of slow, deep breathing can reduce your blood pressure and your heart rate, leaving you feeling a sense of calm. You can try box breathing, which involves you taking a slow, deep breath in for 4 seconds through your nose, holding for 4 seconds, and then releasing your breath through your mouth for 4 seconds. Doing this repetitively for a few minutes, you will notice that you are feeling a lot calmer after you do this. For muscle tension, you can try progressive muscle relaxation. This is an exercise in which you intentionally tense different muscle groups in your body and then release, noticing the difference. So I might clench my hands if you're able to see me and then release, or scrunch my face and then release. So just even noticing the difference between a tensed face and a relaxed face can be very relaxing. You're intentionally forcing your body to get into a relaxed state. If you are interested in doing this exercise, you can actually find videos out there or scripts out there to follow so that you know how to do it systematically throughout your body. Make healthy choices for your diet. So you want to refrain from excessive caffeine or sugary items. Make sure to get enough fluids and to eat regularly. When we are stressed or when we often tend to overeat or make unhealthy food choices, or we can also forget to eat. This impacts our energy, our ability to focus, and our mood, all of which are important in making decisions for the next steps in our lives. Let's work on the basics of nourishing and treating your body well. All right. Given that this is a drastic change in your daily routine, you may also want to watch out for some behavioral changes that could be a result of how you're feeling and thinking in the moment. You may notice the desire to withdraw from family and friends, which could be prompted by feelings of shame or fear or grief. You may also experience changes in your activity level, that you aren't getting up and moving around as much as before. Or changes in your personal hygiene, for example, skipping showers or not getting out of your pajamas. There may be avoidance or increased expressions of anger, or perhaps an increase in substance use. To reduce the risk of experiencing these behavioral changes, here's what you can do. Maintain your daily routine. Go to bed and wake up around the same time. Eat your meals as usual, or take this time to improve your diet. Make sure to shower and change your clothes daily, if that was your previous routine. Be active, get out of the house, get fresh air, go for walks, and connect with others. These may seem like very basic suggestions, but when we're really overwhelmed with life, we often forget to take care of ourselves. We tend not to prioritize the most basic ways of self-care that do have an impact on us. And so, as I mentioned before, our mind and body are connected. So the more that you invest in taking care of your body, the more your mind will flourish. Another skill you can practice is called opposite action. The idea here is to consider what your emotion is telling you to do and to consider if doing that would be effective. For example, I might be feeling very down and not wanting to go to the party that I was invited to. I'm worrying that I'll be asked about the layoff and have to answer questions. My emotion of fear and anxiety is telling me to avoid the situation. However, if I reflect on whether this would be harmful or helpful to me, I'll realize that avoiding the party would mean that I'm isolated at home, with more time to have distressing thoughts that I can't take action on in the moment. It would be more effective for me to get out of the house and interact with others. I'll be distracted by the conversations, and I may even find a job opportunity through socializing. All right, so now that you know how to manage your mental health while going through this layoff, let's talk about the next steps. What can you focus on in these first few weeks of being laid off? Consider this as a growth period. Start with strategizing. First, you want to address any critical items that need immediate attention, such as immigration issues, health benefits, financial obligations. And once this is sorted, you can start reflecting on the next steps. How do you want to proceed professionally and personally? Some of you may be wondering, when is a good time to start searching for jobs? Whether it's good to take some time off to start looking or to start looking right away. This is where you need to consider your personal circumstances. If you don't have any visa, financial, healthcare, or any other constraints that are creating an urgency for you to replace your job, then you can take some time while continuing to peruse through job posts on occasion so that you don't miss an opportunity. You can use this time to reflect on what you want to do next. This is an opportunity for you to evaluate your priorities and to reflect on your values and goals in life. Think about your short-term versus long-term goals and what matters most to you. Is it important for you to make an impact? Is it important for you to explore other career options or other industries? Are you seeking work-life balance, more time with family? Reflect on what motivates you, what you do best, what you liked versus disliked in your previous role, and what you would like to learn next. Some people may discover that they enjoy building products. Some may love to mentor, and others may enjoy outward customer-facing roles. The idea here is to really practice some introspection and consider what you would like to do next. If you're thinking about a drastic career change, don't use it as an escape from stress. Consider your motivation. Is it fear, being afraid that you aren't good enough at your job? Or is it a desire to try something different that really interests you? Talk to people that are in that field to get a better idea of what the job role entails. And of course, be mindful of how long you're out of the job market, as the longer the gap, the longer it might take to find a new job. Before starting your job search, create a list of non-negotiables and negotiables. This will help you to narrow down your search. Consider resetting your expectations. It's hard to match the compensation, perks, and benefits that Google had to offer. So be prepared for the cut, especially if you decide to pursue a whole new direction in your career. All right. So for those of you that feel the urgency to get back into the workforce right away, make it a full-time job and work as hard at job hunting as you did at work. Create realistic and actionable goals for yourself with deadlines. For example, I'll update my resume by a set date. When you are networking, reach out to your network with ideas and ask for specific advice. Share your strengths and achievements. Don't focus on the layoff. And don't focus on the layoff when presenting to the next employer. Focus on what you have achieved in your past roles and the impact you've had. Consider yourself to be a valuable asset with essential skills and market yourself to your network in that way. Remember that this next job does not need to be your forever job. You can use it to experiment and try something new, enhancing your skill set and knowledge along the way. Some of you may be considering joining a startup and wondering how the transition will be for you. Find startups that are relevant to your experience. Be flexible. Be prepared to learn and to develop new processes, to do things from scratch, and to wear multiple hats. And don't underestimate your experience at Google and the value it can add to a startup. The other suggestions on this slide should be pretty obvious to you. And in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. All right, so if you find yourself struggling either emotionally or with gaining clarity on the next steps, please consider seeking some professional help. Signs that you may need more professional support would be feeling down or anxious for prolonged periods of time, an inability to function in daily life, a significant disruption in your sleep, your appetite, or your ability to focus, an increase in substance use, or if your anxiety or mood symptoms are impacting your interview performance, that you find yourself feeling too nervous and struggling to communicate effectively, those are all signs that you may need some additional support. And you can seek support in the form of coaching if you would like guidance in determining what the next steps are for you, whether it be professionally or personally. All right, so before I wrap up my presentation for today, I would like to share a couple of success stories with you. These are a couple of clients of mine who were laid off from their respective companies. So the first client of mine is a 32-year-old female who was laid off from Netflix about 6 months ago. She was a software engineer, recently separated from her spouse, had just moved into an apartment on her own, and was not receiving any financial support from him. She also had her 1-year-old infant with her. As you can imagine, she went into panic mode when she found out that she was laid off. She started worrying about the future and was imagining the worst possible scenario of being deported. She complained of not being able to focus on studying for the interviews because her mind would race and think repeatedly about being deported. In our sessions, we worked on managing anxiety and knowing when to take breaks to improve concentration. We worked on practicing visualization of success. She would visualize getting her green card and being employed again, and she found this to be the greatest tool in helping her move forward. Within a month, she had multiple job offers and now had to decide which one would work best for her. We processed the options together and she considered what mattered to her most at the time, which for her was the quality of the team and the stability of their job. Given her circumstances, she really couldn't afford to be unemployed again. Now, 6 months later, she's very satisfied with the decision that she made. She reports feeling inspired and challenged while also grateful for the work-life balance. Another client of mine is a 31-year-old male who was laid off from Uber a couple of years ago. He was a software engineer, unmarried, and living a single lifestyle. He didn't have the same life constraints that my previous client had and didn't feel the same urgency to find a job immediately. Instead, he decided to use the layoff time for introspection. He reflected on how he'd been dreaming about founding his own startup for several years, but had not been acting on it. Through our sessions together, he realized that his previous experience at a startup had been holding him back. So we discussed what went wrong and what went right. And through this exploratory process, his confidence grew stronger and stronger. In our sessions, he also reflected on what motivated him, discovered where his passion lay and what goals he had, both short-term and long-term, for his life. Through this process, he decided that he was finally ready to start his own company. He started networking and researching, and his confidence grew even more. He ultimately successfully fundraised and started a company, expanding on the work he'd already been doing at Uber. And now he enjoys the hustle of building a business and the multifaceted role of being a CEO. All to say that it's absolutely possible to go from where you were at Google to having the perks, the compensation, the lifestyle that you had, to find a job that's an even better fit for you, something that feels just right, and perhaps to explore a new career or something different from after this experience. All right, so I want to thank everyone today for joining us. I hope that the information provided has been useful to you as you're going through this transition. And if you feel that you need more personalized support, please do feel free to contact me. In the chat message, I will be sharing my slides as well as a link through which you can schedule a free consult with me. And again, please do remember, though the current situation may be challenging, it is not permanent. Remember that you have successfully navigated through stressful times in the past and will do so again. Believe in yourself and your abilities, and know that with hard work and determination, you will not only overcome this obstacle, but also achieve professional success and happiness. Embrace this change and cherish this break and move forward. All right, everyone. So thank you again. Now I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for any questions that you might have. And over here, I'm going to go ahead and send in the chat this information. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that I can share this information. All right.
All right. Thank you, Nidhi. Really appreciate you coming to join us today. I think your voice has something very calming and soothing about it. So I really appreciate you talking through our framework. Very, very helpful. We have 2 questions. I'd love for you to take those. And for those who want to add questions, you can go to the Q&A and add there. I'm going to go in the order they were submitted. The first is from an anonymous attendee. Is it necessarily unhealthy to have a sort of don't get mad, get even mindset, seeking more to do something about it instead of merely coping? For me, it's like I can't just cope or deal with things a lot of time. It's why therapy historically hasn't worked too well for me. My mental, psychological challenges largely just get solved when I take action against the thing causing it in the first place.
Okay. So that's a wonderful question that you said, and I'm actually glad that you brought it up. It's absolutely necessary to take action if you feel that that's what is the right step for you. So one of the skills that I talked about was opposite action. And what that really is about is identifying and labeling your emotions, kind of understanding what your emotion is telling you to do. So for example, you mentioned feeling angry. You're feeling angry at your employer, you're feeling angry at the circumstances. You get to decide what you want to do with that anger. Think about what that anger is telling you to do. Is it asking you to create support groups? Is it asking you to, go back to your manager and ask for questions, ask for answers, right? What is it that, get even is a very, I would say vague kind of concept, right? Like, what does that mean for you? Is it really about fighting your cause? And if it is, and you anticipate some benefits for yourself, that, hey, I'm going to assert myself. I'm going to verbally assert myself and ask these questions. I'm going to create these support teams and get together and work on this. I'm going to take action based on my experience. Then absolutely go for it, right? If you're having thoughts of, I'm going to go and tell my manager that, I hate him and I wish that something terrible happens on him. Think about how effective that's going to be, right? Really think about, like, what is it that your anger wants you to do? And are you going to get an effective response from that? Or is it going to be ineffective and harmful for you? If it's harmful, you may want to try doing opposite action. Instead, avoid the situation, create some distance, focus on other aspects of your life to create that space. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Nidhi. The second one is from Paul B. Based on your opinion, what's an average time a Xoogler gets a new job? I know this might be a hard matrix based on industry, personal circumstances, expertise, and more.
I don't know, Kushagra, do you, I would say I'm not really sure. I mean, as I mentioned with my other client, it took her really a month, and she wasn't a Googler, but she worked at Netflix. So it was quite quick that she got it. Keep in mind, circumstances are different 6 months ago to today. I would assume that it's hard for any of us to really predict how long it would take. The last thing I'll say to this, and of course, Kushagra can chime in, but it's not only personal circumstances, it's also what you're looking for, it depends on what your flexibility is for this next job role in your life. You could absolutely find a job really quickly, but the question is that going to be satisfying? And do you really want that next job, or do you want to wait for something better? Kushagra, if you want to add to that.
I think that's fair. I think for most people, it shouldn't take a long time before you land on your next job or your next career choice. But what I will encourage everyone to do is to take a little bit of time, internalize what happened, think through your life priorities, and go about building your life the way you would have if you know what you know and you're still 20 years young. So I think that will be a very, very powerful construct for you to reframe the problem. Whenever the solution is not obvious, maybe we are not looking at the problem the right way. Let's reframe. Maybe you want to do a startup or you want to do something else, but I will encourage everyone to take a little bit of time before they rush into finding the next job or career. I understand that the situation might not be conducive for everyone, and some of you may have to get a job immediately. But if you can, I'll encourage you to take time. The next question is from Samuel Carrillo. Sorry if I mispronounce or butcher your last name. Any advice or inputs for folks considering looking for jobs outside the US?
Kushagra, do you have any?
We'll be doing a number of sessions for jobs outside the US. We have a strong community, particularly in Asia, in Europe, and elsewhere as well. So watch the space for more. Chris and I will get back to you. Nidhi, this one is definitely your anonymous attendee asks, how to deal with the pressure of so many talented professionals hitting the job market at once?
So the fact is you called it pressure, right? Which highlights the fact that it's in your mind. Who is creating the pressure? It's in your mind that you're in competition with these people. Not to say that, of course, these are the same people that may be applying to the same roles that you are. But if you get stuck in that mindset of, oh my gosh, am I going to get this job? And who else is applying for it? And am I qualified enough? You're not going to take the risks. You're not going to necessarily do what you need to. You're not going to put your best foot forward in order to make the impression you need to get the job. So, I would say focus on what you have to offer. Don't sit there comparing yourself to other people, because you have a unique set of skills, a unique background, qualifications. As I said, you guys are Googlers. You clearly are qualified individuals, highly skilled, and accept that about yourself. Find the role that matches what you have to offer, and apply for it.
Second question is also from an anonymous attendee and it's similar. How do we not get overwhelmed by so many all being on the job market at the same time from Google and various tech companies? I think you answered it, Nidhi, so I'm going to move on to the next one.
Sure.
Several of my friends have not yet told their children, families, or friends that they were laid off because they were embarrassed and don't want them to worry their loved ones. What would you suggest to them?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like your greatest resource right now is your family and friend network. So, I absolutely recommend family, people sharing it with their families. Now, of course, everybody has unique personal circumstances. So if you know that a family member is not supportive, and as somebody who's, you're not maybe in a healthy relationship, then perhaps they're not the right people to seek support from. But, generally speaking, most people here are willing to help, wanting to support you, family, friends. There's nothing to be ashamed of, because again, this is not your friend or any of yours faults. These are just the circumstances. So if you're talking to your friend, I'd really reassure them and remind them over and over, this is not your fault. This is the economy right now. You're clearly a very intelligent human being and you have a lot to offer. Share it with your family. You will get the support that you need right now, and you need it.
The next one is also from an anonymous attendee. What can I do to sleep through the night? I wake up halfway through and can't go back to sleep.
Okay, so there are a lot of tools to help you fall back asleep, whether it's practicing some meditation. And if you also want to be mindful what is resulting in the sleep problems, there's actually a variety of reasons people have sleep issues. Some are actually medical and people don't even recognize them. So the first thing I would say, which now that I think about it, I didn't mention in the physical responses, any kind of physical reaction that you're noticing in your body, first make sure that you do check it with your medical physician to make sure there's nothing underlying that's causing this. Once you've determined that no, everything is fine, there's no like sleep apnea or anything else that's contributing, and it is a stress-related symptom, then work on relaxing your mind before you go to sleep. Sleep is the most essential aspect that's going to help you be able to focus and stay calm and get results. So I would encourage having a routine every day. There's a ton of tips that I can give you for sleep, but a few basic ones. Make sure you're going to bed, waking up at the same time. If you wake up in the middle of the night, try to get out of bed, go have a sip of water, read a book, do something that's a little bit relaxing, do some deep breathing, and then try to go back to sleep. For some people, even visualizing positive things as they're lying in bed instead of all the worries that are coming into mind can help them feel more relaxed. As I said, I'd be happy to offer more support with that one-on-one.
Thank you. An anonymous question again. I'm struggling to find purpose to align on what my next steps will be. Are there any standard templates out there to find one's purpose?
So there's one that I usually use, but I don't think I'll be able to find it here, but it's a values compass. And what it basically does is it breaks it down, and you could probably Google it if you look up values compass and look up images. It's an image of a compass and it has like 10 different areas of your life, whether it's family, employment, community, education. So it breaks it down into different aspects of your life, religion, spirituality. And the worksheet basically has you really reflect, what kind of parent do I want to be? What kind of community member do I want to be? What kind of professional do I want to be? What do I want to learn next? And so, it's not going to say, yes, this is your purpose, but the idea of this worksheet is to get you really reflect on different parts of your life and to figure out, are there other parts of my life that I can get meaning from and purpose from that I've been either neglecting or just not even paying attention to that I'm already doing? So I would start with that, actually. Start with that, look and see, are you actually doing the things that are within your values, such as being productive, being disciplined, being a kind person? Are you living within that value system? That's what gives you purpose.
Mm-hmm. I do not have the urgency to find my next job. How do I reduce guilt?
That's a great question. You just lost your job. So I think it's absolutely okay for you to wait for it. Think about guilt in two ways. This is how we assess guilt. There's sometimes appropriate guilt and there's inappropriate guilt. Guilt is basically an emotion that comes up when we break our own moral values. Okay, so for example, if I steal something, I'm going to feel really guilty because I did something wrong. I hurt somebody else. I hurt a business, and that breaks my own moral values. So in order to overcome that guilt, I need to make amends because I did actually do something wrong. That means, returning the item, apologizing, whatever that might be. That's appropriate guilt. Okay, again, breaking my values. If it's inappropriate guilt, where for you, Anonymous, if it's, I don't have any financial constraints, there's really nothing that's holding me back from taking this time off, then I need to do the opposite of what my guilt is telling me to do. I need to keep on doing it, and that might sound kind of silly and frivolous to say, like, keep on taking time off. But the idea is I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not breaking any values. I'm not, this is not going to damage me or create problems in my life. It's okay for me to take time. So part of it is just recognizing that there's no harmful effects. And then, of course, also notice the benefits of taking the time off. What are you going to use this time for? And use that to reduce the guilt that you may be experiencing.
The next question is from Chase Marketer. Is this the Dory? No, it's not. It's way better. But serious questions though. How do you decide between jumping back into workforce when you have a family and a mortgage and a fear of even more scarce job in the future with potential layoffs and worsening economy versus taking the once in a lifetime opportunity for a few months off to catch up on other aspects of life, home improvement, self-development, family, business, an entirely new career and associated risk? I think you kind of answered that, Nidhi, but I'll let you comment.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that this is also one of those like personal circumstance situations where you really have to process for yourself what matters right now for you. Like you said, there may be short-term, long-term goals that you have. And for you, it may be that this is an opportunity. Financially, I'm okay. I can actually, be okay for the next 6 months. And I know 6 months from now, let's be real, you will find a job. It's not that you're not going to find a job. You are going to find something. And so if you notice that, hey, there's so many other parts of my life that I could be focusing on right now and that really do matter to me, that are a priority, then take the time, do what you need to do. Make sure that you are not, that you're not doing it as an escape from the situation. It's not fear that's making you focus on this fear of, the challenge of finding a new job. And it's more that, no, there are these other parts of my life that matter and I need to focus on.
Got it. Folks, I'm going the questions in the order that they were submitted. I think it's only fair to do that, but I don't think we'll be able to get to all of them. We'll try our best to answer another 3 to 5 questions, but then we'll run out of time. Nidhi, if you don't mind, what I can do is I can send you a summary of all the questions that were asked. And if you can pick out themes from them and give us your general reactions over text or over an audio or a video recording, we can share it with the rest of the group. But I really appreciate you taking the time again.
Sure, absolutely.
UC is asking any recommendations on how to introspect and self-analyze.
Okay, so I mentioned journaling, and I do find that to be an incredibly powerful tool. I have not had even one client practice journaling and tell me that it wasn't useful for them. So if you are new to introspecting, if you're new to really sitting there with your thoughts, understanding your feelings, understanding what they're motivating you to do, or you're feeling uncertain or confused about your next steps, journal. And journal means, it can be unstructured, where it's just a free flow set of thoughts that you're experiencing, but it can also be structured. I mean, you can go online and find, as I said, like that compass that talks to you about your values and once you figure out what those values are, you can actually, there's another worksheet that you can find, and maybe, I can share that information in the deck that I create. But after you find out your values, you can work on what goals you have. And you can work on steps for those goals. It really can, you can break it down. But I would really start with writing down what you're thinking and feeling, because there's a lot of power. It forces you to slow down and really pay attention to what your mind is going through.
The next two questions are similar, and I'm gonna read both of them. How do I deal with the embarrassing feeling of this, especially being a Xoogler? Xoogler is just a new Googler who recently announced a new job only to be laid off a few months after. Also keeping in mind the layoffs were so public. The second question is, I haven't posted about my layoff on LinkedIn yet. It could be shame. Should I force myself to? Will it help me to cope?
So, I'm not going to answer the question about forcing yourself, because that's really a personal choice, what you're ready to publicly share. With your family, as you said, it is uncomfortable. I think that's a natural feeling, to have some fear and some feelings of guilt or shame or whatever it is that you might be experiencing. I would encourage you to share, because the reality is they're going to find out at some point, right? And if they're not going to find out, let's say you decide, no, I'm just going to quickly find another job to replace this, then there's a lot of pressure and urgency you're placing on yourself to have to hide this one thing, which is not even your fault, where again, you did nothing wrong. So you're going to be living this lie, creating more stress for yourself, when right now, the most effective thing for you to do is really reduce your stress level. Your family, one thing that, I mentioned here and I didn't emphasize is really think about a friend going through the same circumstance. Anytime you guys are going through any stressful situation, any negative thoughts or feelings that you're having, just imagine your friend saying that same thing to themselves. What would you say? Right? And I can almost guarantee you would tell your friend, no, tell your family, you didn't do anything wrong. You need their support. They will understand. They'll be there to support you. And it's funny how it's so easy for us to give that kind of advice to our friends, but hard for us to take it ourselves. I would start with using that as a tool as well. So really, and the public piece, that's personally, you get to decide, but family, friends, people that matter and who could actually be a great source of support, I would encourage you to share with them.
Thank you, Nidhi. Let's take one last question from Linda Avaldano. In your opinion, what's the hardest things to do to go from strategize to job searching when you know you're ready to start interviewing and getting potentially rejected?
So can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure.
I'm not sure what the question
In
is.
your opinion, what is the hardest thing to do? Go from strategizing to job searching when you know you're ready to start interviewing and getting potentially rejected?
I mean, the hardest thing I think is just what you said, is those feelings of doubt that come up and like fighting through them. I think the hardest thing is preparing yourself for the interviews, knowing that you will be okay, knowing that you're going to perform well. Applying for the jobs, all of that, it's part of the process. And I know that the hardest thing is managing the anxiety, really, and the stress. And so that's why, a lot of today was spent on just describing what that can look like and how to effectively reduce it. So I hope this answers your question, but I really would encourage you to work on building that self-confidence, believing in yourself and managing any of those anxiety thoughts that are coming out.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. I really appreciate it. I think this session was extremely helpful. I learned a lot from your perspective, and it was super helpful. Thank you so much to you and your tech support.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And I really appreciate the questions. They were really enlightening. And of course, if I'm able to, I'm going to go ahead and provide some more feedback as well. And I did share my link here as well. Maybe I'll do it one more time at the end, because I know there's been a lot of messages in between, so that if you do feel like you need personalized support, I know we didn't get to all the questions that everyone had. So if you notice that, a lot of doubts are coming up, a lot of questions about next steps, please do feel free to contact me. I'm happy to have a free conversation with you. And then after that, you can decide kind of where you want to go. I'm going to go ahead and put that information here again for you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Nidhi.
Nidhi. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Nidhi and Kushagra.
Thank you.
We're so sorry to have heard about what has happened this past week, but the community here is to support you. One, you can already access the Slack, you can get support there, but there's other in-person events you can also join. One, if you email me, I will actually go and connect you with Anshu, who will connect you with a Xoogler as a buddy that you can chat with one-on-one. Second, if you have any immigration issues, we have a panel happening in an hour's time, as well as another session with a lawyer tomorrow. Please sign up for that. Xooglers is actually having a Palo Alto-based machine learning meetup. Join him there. If you're in EMEA, you also can join an online version later today to meet up with them. And there's a Bay Area hike and also women's support group for people who have been laid off happening online on Friday with Minha. Also, check out the newsletter, check out the TGIFs that Kazuki had mentioned. And also, if you're looking to start a company, feel free to get feedback, join the demo days, perhaps get some credits from the different credits providers. We're all here to support you, and don't hesitate to email us to tell us what else you need from the community support. We have an additional 100 volunteers who's now available to support you as a community. So we want to make sure we're designing new programs for you. With that, thank you again for joining today, and we'll be in touch, and feel free to reach out on Slack or email if we can do anything else for you. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.